central values, unifying dominant themes that, because of GE's common culture, will become second nature in the organization. One we've termed reality, a second we called quality excellence, and the third human element.
Let me try to describe what we mean by reality. It may sound simple, but getting any organization or group of people to see the world the way it is and not the way they wish it were or hope it will be is not as easy as it sounds. We have to permeate every mind in this company with an atmosphere that allows people, in fact, encourage people to see things as they are, to deal with the way it is, not the way they wished, establishing throughout the organization. This concept of reality is precursed to the executing central idea, the necessity of being number one or number two in everything we do or doing something about it. When we talk about quality and excellence, we mean creating an atmosphere where every individual across the world is striving to be proud of every product and services we provide. I think it really means all of us stretching beyond our limits to be, in some cases, better than we ever thought we could be. I see it happening every day in almost everywhere all over this company. This excellence team leads to our third and final value, what I can only call to human resources elements where we have been creating and only increasingly create an atmosphere where people dare to try new things, where people feel assured in everything, knowing that only the limits of their creativity and drive their own standards of personal excellence will be the ceiling on how far and how fast they move. The net of these three values, reality, quality, the human elements will be called sub-values, will be a company not simply more high spirited, but more adaptable, more agile than companies between 20th and 50th of our size. This value will permit us to maintain our common heritage, our common culture, but at the same time to give ownership to those managers who are leading, operating, and building our stable number of one and number two businesses. We will give them the resources to take head on in skirmish after skirmish, the marketplace competitors. They come up, yes, give them all the benefits of a company, the size of General Electric, financial, technological, and managerial, yet at the same time provide them the freedom and flexibility that the owners of the enterprises that size must have to win in the 80s. General Electric is a set of diverse enterprises that has to be the envy of every single product line businesses in America. From oil to high technology, most of them have been trying to become bolder than they are, but most have difficulty finding the road. We are already there, a successful, widely diversified, highly profitable industrial and financial express. By any measure, we outperformed the GNP and S&P 400 by a good margin in the 70s. We have the commitment and the potential to do better in the 80s. For those of you who would like in some way to associate GE and the GNP, if anything will become locomotive pulling the GNP, not a cobbles following it. I predict that you will come to see this company from the same perspective, and I invite you to measure and judge us by how well we progress along the path I've tried to describe. Thanks for listening. Now my associate will join me for your question. The Girl Entrepreneurs, an expanded vision by Ebukun Asoika. Introduction. In the last few years, I have walked the path of building my business. I have constantly and continually encountered men and women, young and old, young and old, who ask me questions on how to set up a business. Women, how does one cope? How does one function in the marketplace? And how does one move from being a paid employee to a employer? And even among those who are already in business, I am often asked such questions as how does one move from one stage to the other in businesses? I have come to realize that those who have had the privilege of building their own businesses from the scratch to a successful enterprise have a role to play in the enlightenment of others in the unsettlement ground of business. I also realize that no matter the number of emails I reply through the TV program I host, and no matter how many campus I visit or seminars, I've been able to speak at I can only reach a few number of people at a time. But one thing I've learned is that life itself is a great teacher. I therefore decided to seek out a few of my friends who have walked the path of entrepreneurship and whose stories will help to inspire and encourage another person, young or adults, male or female, who want to build an enterprises and take the bold step. As you read the stories of this woman, you will find that they are all ordinary people like you, who took initial steps of faith, who had many moments of fear, who failed many times and yet got up again, who had many frustrating moments yet refused to give up. And as they continue to push, the barriers that were hindering their paths gave way to them. Their faith in their God is measured in their achievements. Their recognition and appreciation of the rules of their spouses and families in their businesses help them to overcome every trying moment with a sense of adventure. And it makes the journey exciting even when faced with many challenges. As you read this book, I want you to know that this story is not the end. For all those women who still work in progress, which is why, even when they were humble enough to feel their story should not be shared, we still had to convince them to share it only so that you can have a point of contact to get started, inspiring them. Acknowledgement. Through this book, I celebrate the three levels of authority in my life. My parents, who taught me the true value of hard work, especially my mother, for the boldness which I saw in her, for it takes boldness of human to leave her country as she did for my father. I am indebted to her for her fighting to see that we become something. Wish she were here now to see the fruit of her labor. My parents who taught me the true value of hard work. Next, I celebrate my husband. Through the part of deciding who to marry many times, I look back now and I know how easy it takes to make a mistake. I celebrate you and thank you for all your support, for helping me to be who I am. Thank you. Finally, to my pastor, Pastor Taiwo, I say thank you for always being there, for the many moments you are praying for me, and for sharing in my business burdens. I thank God for the many words of wisdom from the lips of Pastor Taiwo that guided me through many thorny decisions. To my dearest Pastor Bimbo, I celebrate your memory today and every day we live. I can truly say on the pages of this book that I miss you. I know I had a fighter in you somewhere at the corner who was helping me to fight. I trust that at that to appreciate time we will get to meet. Finally, to my dearest son, Oludolo, my first and my best. I could not have asked for a gentler and fatherly young man to lead the pack. God made you complete, you are going places. To my fearless Olufisika, it is fire inside you that will make many howl at your feet. To my baby Olumiposi, young and full of wisdom, I'm certain you'll be the best. Thank you for all your sacrifices and your words of encouragement. In life and in death, wherever I may be, you can always be sure that no one could have loved you like your dearest mother. Dedication. To the great I am, the Almighty God, my Ashaddai, my King of Kings, the one who chose to make things out of nothing, who chose an empty vessel and fill it with His Spirit. How can I ever thank you for all that I have done and will ever do? Thank you, Lord. If there is any glory and wisdom for anything I've ever done in life, let it be to you, O Lord, because to you all the glory and the honor, praise, adoration forever. Content 1. The person. The early years. I was Christian as Bettina Bello, Osigi, and raised in Lagos. A passion for the arts had deeply embedded in my heart. From my early days, my mother was a dressmaker, a vocation that requires a certain level of creativity, and this served as a strong influence on my life. My interest in this book and poetry since my childhood days was a breeding point for my passion in writing. So while I was growing up, I had dreams of going into sport as well as becoming an author. Being the second in a family of five children, I grew up to be a very strong woman and always pride myself, just like my sisters, as focused. We are raised by a single mom. I attended Methodist Girls High School where I did my O levels and subsequently my A levels from 1971 to 1977. I then moved on to study English and philosophy at the University of Lagos. As a great lover of sports, I represented my school in athletic hurdles, championships. I represent Lagos State at state championship as well. After my degree, like every average Nigerian graduate, I went job hunting. I was employed by an advertising company. After I spelled there, I got a job in the National Concord. This was my first experience with the pen on a professional level and the beginning of my career as a journalist. My work as a journalist features writer earned me the description of a prolific writer by my superiors. I left the National Concord for the corporate world in 1988, where I worked at Haisha Investment Company as a public relations administration manager for 2 years before I resigned to team up with my husband, Sonny Irobo, as the CEO of Rui Communications. During this time, my flair for writing did not go without expression as a freelance for a number of newspapers such as This Day, Vanguard, and Guardian, amongst others. It was in the course of my new posting as the CEO of Rui Communications that I started my entrepreneurial journal as the editor in chief of Genu magazine. The vision getting started. As the saying goes, life begins at 40. I got a wake up call when, at the age of 40, I look at my life in retrospect. It had been a good and inevitable life thus far, but there remained an undefined yearning in me that longs to be fulfilled. 5 years later, I saw a magazine called Females. It was a lifestyle magazine published in Singapore, and as I glanced through its pages, the spark that lit the genuine vision was born. To present the vision from fizzling out as a passing fancy, I honestly started working on it. I began by creating a dummy of the magazine and then sampling the opinions of my family and friends on it. The magazine was named Genevieve in honor of my daughter, who was named after said Genevieve. From the one said, the values that will govern the publication are defined as well as the principle on which every study will be passed. It was to be a wholesome magazine which reflects and celebrates the value of the total human. According to a business plan drawn up by a consultant, a large amount of money was needed to run the magazine successfully. Having some money in the bank, I set out in search of investors for the magazine. My passion and firm belief in what I was doing inspired investors to invest in the magazine rather than invest a lot of money into the business at once. I decided to invest in proportion to the growth of the business. Another important step I took was to inaugurate a board for the purpose of checks and balances. I also instituted an advisory board which consisted of respect media personnel such as Sam Amuka, Pemu Doyin Abiola, and Dr. Bello as Osigi, amongst others. While all this were being done, I also began a search for a staff of vision carriers who will work with me. Challenges. The biggest challenges to the given vision was that there was no template to use as a benchmark. There were no glows magazine at that time with the content that had a theme that was in the line with the Geneve magazine. Therefore, my team and I had to work on a fresh canvas and develop a template with nothing to use as reference. Another challenge we faced was getting a good press outfit for the printing of the publication. A research was therefore carried out to solve this problem, and this results in question being sent in from printing outfits in South Africa, America, and Nigeria. And because I did not have too much money to play with to care for the cost of printing abroad, shipment, and other important stuff, we decided that the magazine would be printed locally. Apart from the task of having to put a workable publishing office together from the scratch, I also had to contend with the challenges of infrastructural deficiencies, inconsistent power supply, and other national issues that affect Nigerian industry. There was also the challenge of meeting deadlines, getting the photography and the content right, winning the confidence of source or interviewees, and getting advertisers. As common to all publishers, circulation was a major challenge I had to battle with at inception. Then, in the process of time, more lifestyle gossips were published, and the issue of competing said in this made the genuine team set up even more to pursue our dread standards. For the first 2 years, there was a problem with the financial structure of the magazine at the initial stage where no need for a defined structure. But as the business grew, the need became clearer. Because of this financial and structural defects, the magazine lost its profits. In order to solve this problem, I employed a financial manager, and with time, a good financial structure was put in place. Family rule. I'm married to a loving and supporting husband who stood by me through the painstaking stage of birthing and a lifestyle magazine like Genevieve. He will personally hug the magazine. However, we are lodging in a hotel like Nikon Hilton and fondly refer to me as a world-class publisher, even when it was not the case then. He was very understanding when I had to edit late in the night or supervise production product. At times, when I was editing till as late as 2 a.m., he would sit beside me and offer to help in any way he could. And when the tool of being a model publisher started to set in, he was always there for me. I'm a proud mother of two, and my family serve as a mini advisory, both supporting and criticizing every of my ideas for the magazine. They fully understand the importance of these dreams to me and willingly stand by me. They serve as a source of strength and they are my loudest fan. Even when sacrifices had to be made and the company took my topmost attention, my family viewed things from an understanding perspective rather than being resentful. Value system. The vision I had for Genevieve is that it is for it to be the number one magazine for women at all ages, the men in their lives as well as they inspire Nigerian women to embrace all authentic self, to see a woman complete, confident, and inspired to be all she can be in a heart cry and the essence of the Genevieve magazine. As a staunch believer in God, I'm a stickler for integrity, honesty, fair play, and a consistent pursuit of excellence, among other godly values, and all these lie at the core of Genevieve establishment. As a result, certain principles were set on the editorial and advertorial content. The ethos of the magazine is to inspire women and point a beacon of hope that will empower and motivate them in their quest for a lifestyle, balanced and healthy lifestyle, in promoting physical, mental, and spiritual balance among our leaders. The content rates spread across beauty style, politics, fitness, finance. The importance and value of delivering a wholesome magazine is taken to heart at Genevieve, and this I do recently as a result has carved in a niche for itself, creating a brand that cannot be refuted in the media publishing industry. Growth challenges. The growth challenge that Genevieve is facing is a good one. It is the problem of more demand and supply. Our leadership is like a code, and some loyal readers do not always get to buy their copies before it's sold out. The circulation is also a challenge, that is getting the magazine to the readers within their convenience. Like most entrepreneurs establishers, appear to be the most passionate and visible figure in the company and therefore get most recognition. However, I look forward to a day when the magazine will become far bigger than me. And I believe that to invest from more investors, the magazine will go to stock challenge. Another growth challenge we are facing is living up to the expectation of our readers. When you become a modern and respected brand, everyone looks up to you. It is like climbing up a mountain. The higher you go, the harder it becomes. Handcover tragedy. It is the 17th year of my marriage. I had a baby girl, Christian Sonia. She has been a major support and pillar since the magazine's inception. She shares my creativity and passion about the magazine. I was the magazine's youngest contributor at the initial stages. She's currently studying media communication abroad and she majors in publishing in preparing to take over the management of the company from me at the appropriate time. At the time of my exit, I hope to be remembered as a woman who inspired others to follow their dreams, find their purpose, and know that it's never too late to live their dreams. I believe it's never over for everyone whenever you wake up. Whenever you wake up this morning. Two, background. My childhood was a very eventful one with lots of happy experiences. Some of the memories are hazy now, but I had a normal family life. My siblings and I had a good upbringing under the love and tutelage of our parents. I was the last of my mother's children, but this did not earn me any special privilege, not with the very strict dads had and still have. My dad, a lawyer, was highly principled and disciplined person, so he and my mom raised and inculcated in us these same values. We used to think he was too hard on us, but we also knew that he loves us very much. He gave us room to be free with him and to always express our view on issues. He also raised us to be independent, and taught us to do things right to the best of our abilities. I remember if one of us asked him for money or something else, he will remind us that by the time one is 18 in Europe, one is already independent and living away from one's parents. He wanted us to be able to face challenges and be able to think things through on our own. Daddy laid down many ground rules in the home that, although I wasn't a wayward girl, there was time I knew I could do without those curfews. My mom worked with the medical corps of the Nigerian military, and I guess I come to like people in the military because of that. I remember that she was transferred several times in the course of her job. She was at the military hospital Tiaba and the Creek Military Hospital Ibadan, so we usually shuttled between Lagos and Ibadan. My mom developed my interest in sports. I swam, cycled, played tennis, badminton, squeeze, and volleyball. We also had a large farm at our home in Ibadan and in the village. I like going to the farm. I love the big space and the feeling of freedom that one experiences when involved in an outdoor activity. Every Saturday morning, we used to clean up the poultry. We grew a lot of yams and vegetables on the farm. I cannot recall ever going to the market to buy this because we had them sufficiently in our farm. I really enjoyed my childhood days. I grew up with some remarkable friends who often teased me about my small stature. They also used to wonder why I exchanged my femininity with interest in sports. Childhood was one long happy screech, thanks to the good grounding my parents gave us. My primary education was at Wary Hill Convent School, Ibadan, and Command Children's School, Anne's Barrack, Lagos. From there, I proceeded to the International School, University of Ibadan, for my secondary school education. I read law at the University of Lagos and I obtained a degree as well from the London School of Economics. I also enrolled in a number of courses in Namibia while I was with the UNDP. Law would not have been my first choice course, even though my dad encouraged us to study professional courses so we could be on our own. I was not too good in mathematics then, but I liked history so much that I would not have minded pursuing a course in it. But I ended up with law and specialized in international human rights law because I saw an avenue for adventure in it and an opportunity to touch lives, work experience, and birth of vision. I worked in my dad's law firm for about a year and a half before joining the United Nations, where I worked with the Center for Human Rights. I was transferred to the High Commission for Refugees and then later to the UNDP. It was indeed a lot of fun being with the UNHCR, though it was not without its rigors. The job entailed a lot of traveling, and sometimes we had to work under critical conditions. One work and live with refugees. We traveled a lot through East Africa. It was exciting, novel, and sometimes dangerous. Having worked with the United Nations in various parts of the world, I relocated to Nigeria. I work in two companies in Nigeria. When I returned as a consultant to the UNDP, but I soon realized that I needed to do something more spatially relevant and interesting. I began to feel restless and thinking of an area where I could make a difference and have a positive impact. I observed that many children were not speaking Nigerian language, and based on this, I chose to put together a project that will focus on teaching Nigerian languages. This was the genesis of Terra Culture. I later expanded the project to include our culture, arts, music, and food. Basically, we try to do in Terra Culture is to define the Nigerian identity by creating an environment where both Nigerians and foreigners can learn about Nigerian art and culture. So you can say I arrive at the vision that lead to this art of terra culture on my observation of art and space and the entire Nigerian heritage in addition. I wanted to create jobs for the people and thereby reduce the rate of unemployment in our society. Setting up. Towards setting up the establishment, the first thing I did was to have a heart-to-heart discussions with my husband. Since I was going to venture into a unique business, one that was not so common in the country, I needed his advice and most especially his support to brave the journey. Once assured of this support, I proceeded to write a business plan which served as a roadmap and helped me to organize how I will go about setting up the business in measurable steps. Then I started looking for the required funding to start up from different corporate companies, sharing with them my vision for the community. After all that was put in place, Terra culture came into being. I love reading, so in order to be successful at what I have chosen to do, I also invested time and money reading a lot of books and sourcing information relevant to my field. I also went online and did a lot of research. It took me about 8 months of discussions with people and writing out my business plans before I could finally start. I decided to take care of the foundations, hence my sourcing for information and knowledge from far and near. And once I got what I wanted, I decided that it was time to take off. Challenges. The reality is that when you start a business initially, your personal life will suffer. There is nothing that can be done to mitigate that. The only things that happen afterward is that a business begins to settle. We need to work out a balance. Different businesses, gestation periods, and what will work for A will not be necessarily work for B. The bottom line is that you need to find that balance. I started finding the balance after 2 years of running a business. For others, it will be more or less. What is sure though is that the balance has to be found. Otherwise, other phases of one's life will begin to suffer. In my case, my health was pressure points. My greatest challenge to running the business has been the lack of skilled staff. Today, we find that with the falling strand in education and general societal values, getting skilled staff is increasingly difficult. Most graduates have never had the opportunity to work during the holidays, and it is only after graduation, if lucky, that they get their first opportunity to work. This means that you have to teach them literally everything. The work ethic in Nigeria is also very poor, and most people do not understand the notion of literally earning your wages. People work only if they are supervised or watched. Things will be left undone except you specifically delegate and follow up. This invariably burdens the impropriator or business owner. It also goes without saying that as a young business, you are most probably not able to recruit skilled staff, even when available. The other challenge that ranks on the same scale with the above is the lack of basic infrastructure. To run a business, we as a company have had to take on the statutory responsibilities of the government. Please note that as things stand, we are levied nothing less than 10 different taxes annually. Yet, we are still responsible for generating our own electricity, water security, drainage, etc. We have had to invest valuable seed money into purchasing two generators, which also come with their own associated overheads. Meanwhile, we still pay PHCN bills every month. We had to provide our own water by sinking boreholes. And we also have to pay excessive amounts for security. The list goes on, but it's sufficient to know that the government needs to create an enabling environment for businesses to strive. Otherwise, those costs invariably prevent most businesses from succeeding, let alone make profits. My major growth challenge now is getting good staff who will contend with the vision and those find it easy to understand the very essence of the enterprise. I'm also contending with the issue of getting good advertising that will tell our story in the way that it will appeal to our audience. Spousal family support. I thank God for my husband as he had been supportive of me in the venture. In fact, he has always been there for me from the very outset of the businesses. I really don't know how I would have fared without his constant support and encouragement. I've always been drawing from his ceaseless counsel on different ways to run my business. He also assisted me a great deal in terms of financial and emotional support. From experience, I consider the role of the spouse in actualizing an entrepreneurial dream to be extremely important. Besides, there is a limit to how far a woman can go without the support of her husband. There is a need to have someone to rely on at all this time, whether it is a husband or a close friend or a relative. In my evolution in this business, my family has played and is still playing a very positive role. Their influence in terms of encouragement and support has been what kept me moving when the roads get tough. These have a strong belief on my ability as a human to actualize my dreams and visions. Nigerian women healed from achieving greatness by self imposed societal and religious belief. In view of this, Nigerian women need to break free of this. They need to be more involved in national building and politics. They need to be more involved in wealth acquisition. This is very critical because it is only when you have attained some level of economic independence that you can begin to think of affecting the lives of those around you. Those who choose to be housewives can also contribute to the development of the nation by enforcing a deep sense of values and discipline in our children, because this is what entails the moral fiber that will carry them through life. I think my core values as a Christian defines me as a person. I'm a greatly challenged by the extreme poverty in our society. I look around daily and ask myself, how can I contribute to this society? How can I positively affect other people's life? This is what motivates and inspires me. I constantly try to take myself out of comfort zone and imagine the life of average Nigerians. The thought alone makes me want to be the best I can be. If the o- if the only way I can create an impact is by creating jobs difficult to me to do, it is worth taking the risks. I would like to be an asset to my community, but most importantly, I would like to create jobs. We talk daily about unemployment, about the reality of the matter, that government alone cannot create all the jobs needed. Private sector involvement require we are the people that can complement the efforts of the government. My candid opinion is that in a country like ours, which is still developing, if you are fortunate to come from a background that is provided you with the needed exposure and skills, you have no business staying in paid employment. You need to create jobs for the other and not wait to be employed. It is scary, yes. However, with the right spirit, fortitude, and vision, it is achievable. If each of us were to make it our personal target to recruit a certain number of persons in a year, unemployment will be greatly reduced and it will all be the better for it because my lives will considerably reduce. Role model. I do not have a particular person as my role model in business, but I've come to see every successful person in business as veritable model to learn from. Value system. My value system arrives in my strong faith in God and in the possibility of all things through God. Have learned the tenet of having a strong focus in whatever I do in life. I also believe in a lot of hard work. To this end, I pray a lot, so whenever I'm feeling down, I always found prayers to come in handy. This is one way I've immensely benefited from my value system. My family values have my family values have also helped me as well, as it has given me a lot of support right from my childhood. I've learned the value of honesty, dedication, and hard work in my family, plus a lot of work ethics as well. Exiting strategy. As for exiting strategy, I have a boat in place that is the final decision making body in the company. I also train my staff from time to time and allot responsibilities that to stretch and bring out the very responsibilities in them for now and for future challenges. Finally, I have a deputy who has been well groomed in all the regiments and operations and all the businesses, and who remains an operation of business, who can easily take over from me without the company suffering any major loss as a result of my not being there. At the end of my days, I would like to be remembered as someone who works and loves working hard. I I would also like to be remembered as one who have faith in God and in what she did, as well as someone who contributed to the growth of Nigeria. Major updates between 2006 and 2014. Our business has expanded and our turnover has significantly increased. Just like any other businesses, through experience, we have become more efficient and effective in service delivery. The management structure in place has ensured that decisions are made collectively after careful deliberation. After almost 10 years, we brought a new investor into our business. We have established Action House and my Dream Gallery have become the pioneers of theater residents in Nigeria. Contributing factors. Hard work and focus have been primarily responsible for our success thus far. We are an art and culture outfit and we have maintained that focus. Our role and relevance is undeniable and having the first starter advantage, and we have shown that we can make it work. In addition, we have demonstrated professionalism. My weakness is majorly in the area of networking due to the busy nature of my work. I tend not to focus on networking. However, since the business is now grounded, I'm going to focus a lot more than networking and expansion of the business. New business lines. As Ailey mentioned, we are now in the theater. We have a production company, BAP Productions, and we have an action house in partnership with My Dream Gallery, TKAMG Action House. We also promote music, movies, and writers. Growth management. Juggling personal life and work life is tough. What is critical is that I have enjoyed it and so all in the past due into insignificance. My staff have trained, seeing them turn successful in every gratification. Challenge in business model. We have a new investors and we have forged partnerships over the years with numerous institutions, including the various consulates, arts organization, financial institution, and international organization. Challenges encountered and overcome the last 6 years. Initially, finding investors was a huge task. It took a long while to get people to buy into the vision. Also, another challenge was staff training. There was initially high staff turnover. Initially starting out, we could not afford the type of staff needed. In Nigeria, the entertainment, music, and service industries were not these developed 10 years ago. So we had been one of those who provided training in the industry. A lot of people who came to Chera culture have gone out to start their own music, theater, restaurants, etc. Also, There are more and more people coming into the industry now. The industry is becoming more saturated and skilled. We have benefited from it, and others have also benefited. Again, the management that I have in place now are senior people, and they have also added tremendous value to what we do. Factors responsible for your success. I have the benefit of having worked in a very structured environment. The skills I acquired there, I brought into Terra culture. I try to encourage people now who want to start their own business to work for a couple of years into a structured environment first before starting their own business. The reason being that there are so many skills you learn by working in an institution that has structure. Any business can be a global business. You can sell anything and have a successful business empire. And behind the sale of products is a complete administrative structure in Terra culture. We have our team projects, procurement units, legal, administrative, finance arm, above seventh arms. We are structured and conventional as any global businesses. A business may be selling financial product, but we are selling cultural products. It is all the same. This, the perspective you bring into the business determines how far you will go. We decided that this is a business and it's like any other business. The only things that's different is the product we are selling. To that extent, we put all the structures that we are in the United Nations system where I work into this business, which has helped us tremendously and which accounts for a major factor is our business success. Life lessons learned. One of the major lessons I've learned in the mastery of prayer. I've learned not to worry, which is primarily hinged on my spiritual faith. You can do your best at work to put everything in place, but ultimately there is an element of grace that actually makes things work. Another life lesson is maturity. In addition, I've learned not to be distracted. I do not allow the noise in the environment distracts me from where I'm going. There are lots of naysayers. I never listen to what people say. I never listen to what people say. I just do what I need to do and get on it. Spousal role. My husband has been phenomenal. He has been phenomenal. He has given me a free hand. He has been very supportive. His role has been a critical, and it's sometimes you can't underplay. He's not the demanding type. He's of the opinion that you are a professional woman and you have to do what you have to do. Value system. My value system has always been the same. I've always been disciplined. I've always been a disciplined person. I've always been a very spiritual, and I've always been a very hardworking. I think the only thing that has challenged, if anything, has changed is I'm bolder and less fearful. Advice for upcoming female entrepreneur. First of all, you have to be sure of what you want to do. You must come to a point where you have to decide what to do with your life. You must also learn patience and understand that one must not be built in a day, and that time always works things out. You have to stay there, you have to focus, you have to keep doing what you are doing, and you have to stay long enough to be what you want. You must also open a challenge. They will come. You must also be open to challenges. They will come and go. 3. Background. I was born on the 24th of December 1962. The Adekola family as Bilkisu Abiodun. I am the third child in a Muslim family of 7 children. My family has a strong Islamic heritage as my father's maternal grandfather was the first Alhaji in the city of Ibadan. In, in the days when they used to ride on camels to Mecca, I was born to a Nigerian father, Mr. Abdul Masjood Adekola of Oke, Ibadan, and a Cameroonian mother, Hannah Aduke, village in the village in western Cameroon. Most of my early years were spent with my grandmother, as I left with her when I was about a year old with my parents when my parents went to further their education. I believe my first exposure to business in any form was sitting at my grandmother's little shop where she sold salt. I enjoy a lot of care and affection in my early days, the type that one could get from a grandmother who was not sure if her son who had gone too far away land would ever come back to her. That was the mindset then. I remember when my parents felt we would be spoiled by my grandmother. They told her to send us to a nursery boarding school, and this helped me to build an independent mindset right from my early years. Whenever my grandmother came visiting to my brother and I in the school, she would hide food under her apron, shoulder drapes, because she was convinced that we were not well fed. She would tell us to quickly eat the food with tears in her eyes, expressing the love of a grandmother who felt she was being forced to give her grandchildren away. But my parents were convinced that growing up in the family house was not the best for us. Some years later, my parents returned with my sibling, and my father's first job was at UAC Farms in Mina, Niger State. We spent some times there before we moved back to Lagos. This meant that my primary school education was in different places. But the most interesting part was that I completed my primary education in a public school. From there, I proceeded to the Methodist Girls High School, popularly called MG, for my secondary school education. This I consider a critical part of my life because from Form 2, I got involved in a lot of activities in school, such as sports, debates, etc. Because I was so restless, nevertheless, I was still outstanding in an academic performance as well. And though I was a Muslim then, I read the valedictory message from my saint in church. In the school then, a lot of girls from Muslim families did not like being called by their Muslim names because the names sound like the names of their housemates at home. But I was insisted on being called Bilkisu, as I was very proud of my Islamic heritage and self assured enough not to be embarrassed by my name as somewhere. I thoroughly enjoyed my secondary school days. I made a lot of friends there, some of which have lasted to date. Some of my friends and classmates from them include Babalakin Bolahan, Ni Jinadu, and her sister Dupe Jinadu of blessed memory, who was my best friend and sister then, but died while we were writing our school certificate exams. Others are Kemi, Sade, Kike Long, and Dupe Kazim. I particularly remember with great respect of our principal then, Mrs. Onufu, who was indeed a mother, a source of encouragement, and a disciplinarian that tolerated no nonsense from anyone. Whenever I think about my days as MG, I am always grateful to God for going to a school with values which helped to build a good foundation of my multitasking and a sense of adventure. To try one's hands on different things at the same time. As I was preparing for the university, I initiated wanted to become a medical doctor. However, I found out from a friend's brother who was a medical student that they actually use real human corpse for some of their experiments. This made me abandon the idea. I could not cut a fly, much less a human body, dead or alive. I then aspired to work as an architect because I love drawing and designing. Though I was a science student, I really love fine arts. I sat and passed my JAM exams for admission into the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. But the results of our physics paper at the O level of my school was delayed, and when it was eventually released a few months later, though I got an A in physics, it was too late to meet up with the admission, so I had to retake the JAMS exams again. But this time I was admitted into chemistry department. I must point out here that if I had exposed to some counseling and career advice, I wouldn't have found myself where I did. Even though I was in the science class and passed all my science subjects very well, yet my personality does not match the sciences. And this is what often happens to the brilliant students who usually got boxed into the science class. If I had gone for any of the social sciences or business related courses, perhaps I would have really enjoyed my university days. But as it turned out, I found myself wanting to change my course at Ife as I really did not enjoy the process of my chemistry degree. Although I had an excellent academic background, as I finished with a grade 1 at Methodist Girl and even won the Dayton Prize for the most outstanding student, I got the shocker of my life when I failed a course in my first year at the university. I couldn't reconcile what went wrong, so I decided to change course to law. Consequently, I went to the office of the dean. After waiting for many hours without giving up, he finally agreed to see me. He turned out to be an elderly professor, and I wonder what this young lady he had never seen before what what made wait endlessly for him. And I just bloated, I want to change to low. The man looked at me for some time, smiled, and finally say, "You know what? I like your courage. And I like your courage. If I'm going to take anybody from another department into law next season, it should be you." He, however, gave me a condition that I must pass every well in my department courses before he could take me in for law. And this puts me in a dilemma because if I pass well, my department will not want to release me, and law will not take me in if I didn't do well. At the end of that season, I didn't want to study law anymore. And at a time, I became so confused about it all. And I later resolved to become an accountant. So I began to take electives in accountancy and administration to complete any units to prepare myself to a career accountant. Funny enough, I performed much better in these elective courses than in my departmental courses, so I took all my electives in accountancy till I graduated from university. A part of my life which I know contributed in a small measure to the life of business which I chose later was my membership of Junior Chambers International (JCs). I joined the organization at 18 and was positively engaged in leadership, development, and inspiring experiences with the junior chambers throughout my years in the university. Through JC's conference around the world, I had visited countries like Korea, Taiwan, Colombia, and Canada before I left the university. At those conferences, I had seen many outstanding young people from all over the world received awards for the most extraordinary achievement through the Outstanding Young Person Award program of JCs. I sat under the inspiring talk of men like Edward Heath, amongst many others, all of which helped to inspire me to excellence and a desire to be outstanding in whatever I choose to do. By the age of 20, I was the president of the University of Ife Chamber, managing over 200 members. But younger and older than I was, I believe this greatly prepared me for the management of my staff, all of whom were men who were much older than I was in the early years of the business, and to interact confidently with different cadre or people who were my possible customers as the business grew. After graduation, I naturally proceeded for my NYSC, which was in Kano. I knew people don't really think much about the NYSC scene, but I would like to point out